nice to see so many people that have gathered here for this afternoon's program. All the mentors, the administrators, welcome to today's event. I am Christine Jacob-Sandejas, and I am your host for this afternoon. Before anything else, I hope you were able to grab some snacks, coffee, go to the restroom, because you will not want to stand up and miss out on what Dr. Borba has to share with all of you today. Once again, I cannot stress enough how happy we are that you have taken time out to come and be with us this afternoon. I mean, it has been a while from the pandemic. We've had a lot of our Zoom interactions, so it's quite nice to actually be here in front of you today. So one of the questions that, of course, we would like to ask all of you is, why character formation? I mean, what does it exactly mean? Well, simply put, we all know that the generation of students today are exposed to a totally different set of distractions, okay? So we can go through the list here. We do have the digital technologies that plays a big part of the children's, everyday interactions. And not only that, but we also have the unstable economies, social-political issues, mental health is also a big factor that we do have to consider. All of these can easily distract or actually make them stronger. So I guess in a sense, it can easily make or break our children, which is why today's talk is quite important. Our job as teachers and of course mentors is to help them navigate through these challenges and become responsible and contributing citizens. And that is why, once again, we are so happy that you have found the time to be with us this afternoon. Before we go on, of course, we would like to thank our sponsors, Septo Education, who made this event possible in partnership with the University of Asia and the Pacific, School of Sciences and Engineering Catalyst, UANP Information Technology Community, and special thanks to Bellevue Hotel, Divina Law, and Estancia Uno Boracay Lifestyle and Resort. Okay, one more thing before we start off today. We have, as I said, a lot of learning to do. So you can actually, this session is worth 3 CPD points. Now, certificates are going to be available, and you can generate this through Septo Academy. Instructions of this will be sent. So another important piece of information that you will know, let me move back so you can see here. Survey, you have to fill out the survey, of course, so we'll be able to send you the instructions on how you can claim your CPD points. And on top of that, you'll be able to join the raffle, okay? So simply scan the QR code behind me, fill out the form towards the end of the program, and once you're done, your name will be automatically included in the list for the raffle, so you don't want to miss out on that. It is definitely going to be an exciting afternoon, an afternoon that will empower everybody here. So let us begin. Now, to start off and of course set the tone for this afternoon and our discussion, we do have with us a special message from the president of the world's largest network of character education advocates, character.org. We have Dr. Arthur Schwartz.
¿Cómo está? Hello. My name is Arthur Schwartz, and I proudly serve as president of character.org. I want to thank Zepto in partnership with Catalyst for their support has helped to make this day possible. I also want to recognize Jacob-Sandejas for his generous support. Paco is Mr. Rentoy's high school classmate, and I am inspired by his commitment to Mr. Mann's enduring vision. This year, Character.org is celebrating our 30th anniversary. And from the very beginning, we have focused on ways to inspire educators to cultivate a culture of character in their schools. Here's a peek into what we have learned over those 30 years. First, schools of character select, embed, and model a set of core values that serve as the anchors or the guideposts for the entire school community. These core values should be easy for students to understand and practice. In so many ways, these core values serve as the beating heart of their school culture. Second, schools of character strive to create a real school community where everyone feels responsible for one another. Students can articulate the caring attachments they have with fellow students, teachers, and staff. Finally, a school of character as a school leader who recognizes how critical it is to empower the entire staff to take ownership for their school's character initiative. These school leaders are guided by a belief that the most essential work of a leader is to create more leaders. In a spirit of humility and service, thank you for all you're doing to cultivate a culture of character at your school. And I hope to meet many of you in Washington, D.C. in November at Character.org's International Forum. Thank you.
Okay, so now we do begin. Are you ready? Yes, I do hope so. Anybody that has heard Dr. Borba in the past? Anyone? Okay, we do have a few hands here, so a lot of you would be first-timers, and you are gonna be in for a wonderful treat. I mean, her resume is incredible. Okay, let's go through it. We do have, she's an award-winning author, parenting child expert, recognized for her solution-based strategies in strengthening children's character, resilience, and reducing peer cruelty. She's a sought-after motivational speaker across 19 countries and counting, and has served as a consultant to hundreds of schools and corporations. A former classroom and special education teacher with a master's degree in learning disabilities from the University of Santa Clara and a doctorate in educational psychology from the University of San Francisco. An impressive resume. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so honored to introduce to you an internationally renowned educator back in the Philippines for her 5th time. Yes, and we do hope to have her back several more times after that. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause, please, for Dr. Michele Borba.
Back here, and welcome to all of you. Listen, the only thing that you should know about me is that my mom was a kindergarten teacher. My father was a superintendent. I married a special ed teacher who became a principal and became a superintendent. I started out in first grade 101. My life is just like yours. We're educators. And that's where I think is the best hope we've got for changing the world. The second thing I think we need to do is recognize what you know in your hearts, that our kids have changed. The last 3 years have really done some trauma on our kids. And I think when you look back and you go, so what are we gonna do about it? Hang on, breathe. This is not new programs. We're gonna use our hearts and our empathy, and I think the best story that I can think about started in Reggio Emilia, a little town in Italy, the day after World War II ended. The moms in that town sat there amongst the rubble. The Nazis had just come in, they desecrated the city, and they sat and they had a very serious conversation as they held their children. what do our kids need in order to really live a meaningful life? And they said, I think we need to rethink, not their education, they still need to have those academics, but they need something else besides that so that this doesn't happen again. And they realized they needed critical thinking, they needed character, they need to be sound up to themselves, and they need to have strong virtue. And on the spot, a teacher happened to be driving by in a bicycle. They pulled him over and they said, hey, you want to start a school? And on that spot, they started to pick up the rubble. They started to build bricks. In a very short amount of time, a school building formed. It became the Reggio Emilia Preschool. And about 20 years later, it was named one of the best schools in the world. And there's a message there. The message is maybe today is the point we say, what are our kids going to need in this new world? They come with the same needs, but we also know that this thing called the pandemic over the last 3 years has really altered them, altered their thinking patterns. And here's some things you may want to think about. Number one, when we look at these kids and we say, what are we going to do that's going to be different about it, we always start with why. The first question is, why should we change? Just like those Reggio Emilia parents said, why should we change? And here's my point to you. Think about your children's behavior. Think about your concerns. I've been talking to you over the last couple of days in each city that I come to. And you're telling me that your kids are a little lonelier, that they've regressed, that their behavior is a little different. Yeah, they've had some learning loss. But the first thing is you analyze the behaviors. And then when you analyze the behaviors and you say, okay, then what do we do differently next time? You begin to also notice that across the world, we're now in a state of what's called a character crisis. A lot of the behaviors you're seeing is because character is lying dormant in those children. We're seeing a little bit lack of civility, fill up a group of kids who also have the character. What I did is identify 7 traits, 7 character strengths that futuristic thinking patterns, like the Reggio Emilia parents would say, that's what our kids need above all else. We're going to look at these a little bit more in depth, but then we're going to look at, so what do you do? What can you do to start making a difference in your children? Think big, but start small. They're going to need confidence. They're going to need that empathy. They're going to need to be able to control themselves, their impulses. That stress level is going up too high too soon. They need the integrity, obviously, that's what we do best. They need to be open-minded and curious, outside-board thinkers. They need to persevere and don't give up. And they need to have an optimistic, hopeful attitude in a kind of a doom and gloom kind of a world. Now here's the most important thing. Makes no difference if you teach 3-year-olds, or if you teach 18-year-olds, or you teach 24-year-olds. Character is learned. Our children aren't born with it. Character can be instilled in our kids at any age. It's made up of experiences they have. The environment is absolutely critical. The practices that we do at our school sites, but sometimes we overlook. You matter enormously, because one of the best ways to instill character is making sure your school culture is strong, that it's going to be part and parcel to go with it. Now, those in mind, here's the most important question you need to ask yourself right now. And this is going to guide the rest of today and the rest of your school years, the rest of your life. And that is, ask yourself, what do you think your students need in order to lead meaningful lives? It's a different world, futuristic. What are they going to need for that 21st century and onwards? Once you identify what you think your students need, now what we're going to do is figure out how to weave it in. What I'm going to do is share with you some of the most brilliant schools I've ever visited. They are, each one of them, night and day difference. I don't want you to copy somebody else's school. I want you to take a moment and say, this is what my students need at my school. This is what my teachers will buy into. Think big, but start small. But it all starts with your touchstone of what do you think is going to guide you. It's kind of like your North Star. Let me give you some examples of it. And you may already have a touchstone. If you don't, this is your first strategy you can do tomorrow morning by putting up butcher paper on your faculty room walls and just say, what do you think our students need? And then look at the Post-it notes that go up there and see, are there any patterns? What are the majority of your teachers seeing is important? That can become your touchstone. Example, touchstones are going to be ones that are made up of what Aristotle would say, good old strong virtue. There's two kind of virtue traits. Performance guides your performance in that classroom, your academic work ethic. But the moral kind of virtues are going to guide your relationships with one another. Kids need both. And it's not, okay, now we're going to do character. Character and academics go hand in hand. One without the other, you don't get the gains that you want. So with that in mind, here's my first wonderful idea. It came from Winnipeg High School. What they did as a group of teachers is the conversation we just had, led by you, the principal, and it simply was, what do you think our kids need in order to graduate? They came up with what they wanted to be the graduation. When that kid walks across the stage and gets the diploma, yeah, we wanted to be smart here, but what are the virtues that we want to see and hear? They named 4 virtues. They voted on them. There wasn't any one we're going to get from a textbook. These are the ones that we think matters most, and then they made it very simple. Every teacher took a piece of construction paper and wrote the 4 virtues and put them on the back wall of her room. And while she taught, she wove them in. It's not a now we're going to do character and here's the worksheet 101. She was teaching Othello. She looked at her virtues and said, Curly, would Othello have been a graduation here? What did he do? What did he not do? The student walks into your room for discipline. You look at the graduation form and you say, now which of those virtues are a little dormant in your behavior? So what are you going to do to tune it up? See, it's just tuning it up by first identifying what you think matters most. There's dozens of virtues. You're not going to have time to teach them all. Aristotle came up with over 400 of them. You can't do 400. But which are the ones that are going to guide your students? Which are the ones that are going to make sense in your culture? Because that's what you're looking for above all else. It makes a difference. Here are just 2 strong character, national character, award-winning schools. They went through a year process of identifying them. And then what they did is they put them everywhere. Here's your next question. I'm going to come visit your school, or a brand new parent is going to come to visit your school. How long is it going to take the parent to figure out? How long is it going to take that brand new kid to figure out what you stand for? Yeah, you got your beautiful mission statement up there, but that's not in kid language. What is in kid language? I always do that every time I visit one of your schools. I ask the principal, would you give me a couple of kids, and we're going to walk the walls of the school. We're just going to walk, and don't hand me your handbook of 50,000 rules. I just want to walk the school and with the kids. And at the end of our little 20-minute tour of the school, I keep asking the kids, what's repetitive here? What do the teachers really stand for? What has meaning and purpose in this school? And I remember I was way far north in this absolutely gorgeous school in the Yukon Territories in Canada. Absolutely gorgeous. But I couldn't see for the life of me what the heck the students were standing for, or what the school stand for, until I turned to this 3rd grader and clearly just asked him, well, what's the most important thing that your school stands for? The 3rd grader turned to me and goes, I don't know, I think this school could use a goal or something. Kids, it radiates with them. And so your first step is, what do you stand for? What matters most? I love this one. Here's the National School of Character, and what they did is they came up with their touchstone, and then they came up with their motto. The motto is, no matter where it is, you see that it's the Slavin way every way. And that's what it is. We know what we stand for because we came up with it, but all you had to do is the principal is turn to the kid and say, was that a Slavin way? Is that the way we are here? Every kid knows that motto for the rest of their lives. It will be, this is the power of an educator, internalized because you helped it be there. Other ideas. The best things I see are simplified mottos. The KIPP schools, you may have heard about that. It's so easy, it's so simple. It's work hard and be nice. Work hard and be nice. That's the key motto. Every kid does it, and all the teacher has to do is say, is that your motto? No, it's supposed to be working hard and being nice. Good. Sometimes we make things too difficult. Make it simple so every child can go home and say it. Other ones, it's purpose, pride, and performance. Whatever hurts my brother hurts me. Those are mottos that the school has come up with. So my first thing is, what's your motto? What's your touchstone? If you have one, good. Say, got that one checked. If not, then go back one step more and say, so what can I do next time in order to turn this and we can make a difference in life? Here's the next step. Some of you may already be going to say, got that. Now what do I do? How about coming up with maybe a virtue a month? or maybe a virtue a semester, or maybe a virtue a quarter. There's no right or wrong, teacher. There's no right or wrong, principal. You gotta figure out what works for you, but I love what Troop High School did. They're a national school of character, and what they did is they really spelled it out in kid behavior. This is what it sounds like, this is what it looks like, and then when you walk through the school, you see it. You see it in kid language. It's not an outside poster you buy. It's an inside creation of what's it look like and what's it sound like. Now, I've just given you some really bird's eye little views, so I'm going to keep going through a lot of information to show you what simple things schools are doing to take themselves up a notch. But here's what I suggest you do tomorrow. Remember I took that walk through the school with the third grader? And we kept walking and walking and walking to go, what do you stand for? Tomorrow, I suggest you do the same thing. But what you're looking for is walk your walls. Walk all of your halls. Walk in and out of the restrooms. Walk in and out of the cafeteria. And what you're doing above all else is really using STICK. Is what we are trying to instill in this school sticking. Can I see it? Not just in that room, but also in that room, in that room. It's not lavish and colorful. It's just, I can see some kind of consistency of here's what everybody stands for. Not just in the classrooms, but on the halls, in the cafeterias, out on the playgrounds. Can kids tell me? Just like that third grader, tell me. Explain what this school stands for. Is it integrated? I can walk into a third grade classroom and I'm looking at its empathy month. And all of a sudden I see a third grade teacher teaching the book, The War with Grandpa. And I see him just turn to the class and go, okay, let's have some empathy for the kid. He did have to give up his bedroom for his grandpa. How would you feel? I'm going, it's integrated. It's not just on the poster. It's naturally being talked about so kids are getting it. And it's common. I could go in that hall and that hall, or that room and that room. Every teacher has different lessons, principal. But what you're seeing is some kind of common language, and common language creates your culture. You're going to have a culture where you're all breeding it together, and you're keeping one thing as core. Pick up your pencil and say, what's one thing I want to remember? Because the first step to all of this is having the touchstone. Having some kind of commonality. You're now creating the culture, and once you create the culture, now you can go one step more. Because when I look at some of the best of you who have done some extraordinary jobs of creating schools of character, high academic achievement, high performance, but high behavior, I see that you've really taken a long time. Let me just share with you Penny Lane, the principal of a school in Hilltop. It's outside Seattle, Washington. I went to the school probably 5 years after she had really tried to instill character. And within seconds, just like you, I was on the parking lot and I could see the character. I could see it on the signs. As I walked in, I could see cleanliness. As I walked in, I saw kids who were greeting monitors. I felt it. But then I asked Penny, how long did it take you to get to this level where the achievement is so high, the performance is so high, but the character is so high? She said 7 years. But once we knew that that was our gold mine and that was what we wanted, we didn't stop. We just kept taking it up a notch, taking it up a notch. It takes a while, and you can't overwhelm the teachers right now. They're burnt out. It's not one more program. It's one of the simplest things we can do to weave this in. And here's one idea that you may want to consider. Start with, if you're not doing anything, pay me deeper understanding. Maybe it's a book club. Most of the schools that I'm visiting, and I get, how did you get to that level? She said we had to understand it. And we did it by, maybe every time we did a faculty meeting, we'd do a 5-minute conversation about character. Every time that I saw some kind of late-breaking research that was important in our national news, we had a bulletin board up in our faculty room about, here's another reason character matters. Or we'd do Google hits, just email exchanges to one another. But we also did one book club. We'd choose a book each year, and we'd spend the whole year diving into the book. Are you doing one book? It makes no difference what book you're reading. There's dozens of them out there, but you find one and you keep talking about whatever it is till the teachers understand the reason for it. Once they have the buy-in, then you keep having those little chats, those courageous, brave chats. Some of the best ones I've seen are the faculty meeting when every Every teacher has a paired partner, and it's nothing more than how's it going in your class, or what did you do, or here's the theme this month, what are you doing in order to instill, take it up a notch. It's 3-minute daily reflections on it, or it's a 5-minute training. It's staff check-ins with one another. It isn't a one-time PD day. That's our big mistake, because we now know that one-time PD days never get transferred. But if we do ongoing little chats and we weave it in and we find the way to make it work with our staff, that's how it makes it work. Here's another one. I've got a school, the last book I wrote was called Thrivers on Resilience. Here's a school that I would call a Thriver school. But she said, as the principal, the thing that we've been doing wrong is always starting with the kids. So every time we do a trait, this is on confidence, we start with ourselves as a staff. And we have each staff member come up with, so what are your strengths? Make a PowerPoint slide on your strengths, then let's talk about it. She said the absolutely most amazing thing is, the staff began to understand what the heck character was, why the strength mattered so much. But the second thing she said was fascinating is, the staff began to bond with one another. I didn't know you liked yarn and knitting. I didn't know you liked piano. It bonded and connected. Maybe there's another idea. You don't do all of these, by the way, or your teachers will never let you come to another one of these workshops. But you find a couple that'll work for you, a couple that'll work for them, and then you keep analyzing. What are your needs? What are you excited about in your staff room? What do you need in order to take this up a notch? What are your worries? What are you worried about most that this character program may not work? But what stamps and steps and suggestions you need to take it up? You see, it's little steps, and now we're digging in. In a minute, we're going to get to how to work it in with the kids. But it starts with our touchstones, then it starts with us, and it starts with going up a level so we get our best practice. You got 2 seconds, turn to the person on your left and your right and say, here's one thing I'd like to try, or here's one thing I'm already doing that's a far better idea. Yeah, 30 seconds, connect. And don't leave anybody out that's really tacky. Say, would you like to be a member of my team? Go.
What's our best Hello. Notice what I'm doing? I'm trying to level this.
Oh, that's good.
We have an hour. And in an hour, what I got to do is give you as much information that you can walk out of here doing what Penny Lane said that'll last you the next 7 years. You figure out what you are now, where your staff is now, and how to keep coming up. But here's the next thing.
Traits plus good grades.
Penny Lane from
our
Hilltop.
students, basically.
The school that's left a mark on me because it had high performance,
You're in San Pedro? Where's from Muntinlupa?
it had such high achievement.
That's good. What your school? Southcrest School.
But the other thing I discovered is that the teachers were really buying in to the activities. So here's the next thing. Character education, the really good ones, usually have a best practice that supports it. It's a best practice that teachers can use in their daily learning, but it's also a best practice that supports the virtue. When I asked Penny Lane, how did you get, for instance, all your staff to be so fluent in conflict resolution, if that's what they chose? Or how did you get your whole staff to be so fluent in Socratic dialogue, if that's what you chose? She said, I learned something the hard way. What I learned is that too often I start trying to introduce different kinds of practices to the staff, and then they give up because they haven't practiced it enough. So we now take on one best practice a year, like class meetings. And then we practice it every time we're in our staff meetings, so we can do it together. And we keep practicing and practicing it until the teacher feels confident and can do it back in the classroom. I think that's brilliant. So let's look at what are ideas that you can do that support it. Because you're not going to take on all these ideas, just simple little ones that you can try that'll make a difference. And let's just start with, first, look at what you already have. Does it already support your character development? Does it already support your strong school? For instance, the procedures you normally do, the practices that you are using.
your principles at your school, your rules, your standards, your policies, your people. They all work hand in hand. And maybe what you may want to also do is take a moment to look at those and say, so where do I go for the next step? There's a lot of different kinds of practices. Which ones do your students need? Which is the easiest one to get started on? Not all of these. Most schools say it's cooperative learning, or it's a daily meeting, and that's what seems to help us. You've got to figure out what works best for your school. There's lots of ideas. This is Temecula. Every single morning they start each morning with a class meeting. I could go to every single classroom and they're doing a class meeting. Now what are they doing in the class meeting? They're starting with, yeah, how was your day? But they're also taking time together to be able to help the students practice and understand the virtue of that month. As a result, it becomes more internalized. There's your idea, but you also take a moment to say, what are some wild ideas? Let me share the wildest idea I've seen because it's culture driven and I love it. It's Yerevan, Armenia. Yerevan, Armenia, it's a small country, but they as a country wanted their students to be strong in character as well as academic performance. So they sat as educators and said, what can we do as a practice every day in our schools that would help kids learn character as well as academic performance as well as the skill sets? And they said, wait a minute, we're already good in something called chess. They got some of the best chess masters in the world. Why don't we hire a chess teacher to start teaching young kids chess? Now, go with me a minute here. Because I looked at that and go, how does that teach character? I walked in, I don't speak Armenian, but I knew within seconds how it was helping the kids. It was teaching them perspective taking. You can see each kid sizing the other kid up. Does she really know where she's supposed to be going with that piece? You saw sportsmanship. Each child was taking a moment to shake hands, encourage the other kid. You saw fortitude. I'm not giving up. I'm going to keep on working. They embedded all their character traits into one thing that was their national pride of chess. That became their best practice. Do you have to do that? Absolutely not. What works best for you, your site? Let's go on for some other ones because here's another one. Kids. Are you noticing they're a little more risk adverse these days? They're not speaking outside the box or raising their hand like they used to. One of the best strategies, and this would be your year-long or your 7-year-long, is Socratic dialogue. If you've never heard of it, just write it down. And this is when you say, I'm going to look into it more. It doesn't mean I'm going to go adopt it. It means maybe that's what my students could be learning. All of my teachers at more the middle school and high school level can be using to integrate it in. I was in this middle school classroom, and the teacher had been teaching the kids Socratic dialogue for quite a while. They had clear rules. They were all working on the book, The Outsiders. But I want to tell you something. It took me 20 minutes to find the teacher. She was short. She was there. She had disguised herself in the group. The kids were leading the circles because they practice it so often. Then going, there you go, there's character. They're speaking respectfully. They're speaking outside the box. They're taking turns, but they're also getting to the really solid, wonderful ideas. The best idea I've ever seen in my life. The best idea. I'm not saying copy it, but I'm saying here's another one. This is way far north in Alberta, Canada. I walked in, the superintendent said, you better get into that 3rd grade class. They're teaching empathy in the most profound way we've ever seen. Teaching empathy, you don't teach it as a worksheet. You don't teach character as a worksheet. You teach it as an active way. I walked in and the first thing I noticed in this classroom was it was unique. The kids were all sitting around a great big green rug. They told me they were waiting for the teacher. I couldn't figure out where the teacher was. She's just right outside. How'd you miss her? But the next thing, they all made sure they patted the rug so that I had a place to sit. And then I sat down and the kids gave me the directions of the classroom rules. Sit real still and don't startle. The teacher startles real quickly and don't startle. It scares her. And make sure you smile. Just keep smiling. Don't frown, because if you frown, she starts to cry. Well, I'm a little worried about the teacher, but I'm there sitting and starting to smile, and all of a sudden the door walks open, in walks the teacher, and my mouth goes, oh my gosh, this is brilliant. The teacher was an 8-month-old baby named Clara. What happens is, there is a real teacher, that's the adult, she was just waiting for the mom. Clara comes in once a month. She sits in the middle of the green rug, and she is the teacher on empathy. Now, the rest of the kids are supposed to watch Clara and identify the emotions that Clara's feeling. Not on a worksheet, but on a baby. And the real teacher says, how does Clara seem to feel today? And the kids are going, oh, she looks a little upset. Oh, she looks frustrated. I think she's gonna cry. How do you know? Because look at her whole body's like this. And I'm going, this is profound. Do you know that the more kids understand different emotions, the more engaged they are in the classroom, the deeper thinker they are, they also have better relationships with one another and better mental health. This is Mary Gordon's Roots from Empathy program. It's absolutely amazing. All of a sudden, it looks like the baby's starting to cry, and one kid goes, she's gonna cry, she's gonna cry. Everybody sit real still, don't startle, smile, and let's sing a lullaby. I start to sing the lullaby with the kids. We're all going like this. Clara doesn't miss a beat. She starts to smile, and the kid next to me goes, Clara's learning empathy. I said, I don't think it's just Clara. 800,000 kids around the world have been exposed to the program. What happens? Empathy and emotional literacy goes up. Bullying goes down. Inclusion goes up. Taught by an 8-month-old baby. I'm not telling you to get pregnant. You always have a mother about ready to deliver. You can borrow the baby. But the fascinating thing is it changes the dynamics of the classroom. I turned to the 3rd grader sitting next to me and I said, why does this work? And I've never had a kid say something so profound on character. He turned and said, it works because empathy's a verb. You think about that for a minute. Because I went, oh my gosh, this is incredible. Character's not a noun. It's not a definition. It's active. It's meaningful. They were finding a way to make it active and meaningful. I was in a school in Washington, D.C., very, very difficult children in a very traumatized area. And I was talking to a 4th grader who said we had a Roots of Empathy program. And I said, how's it going? He said, I don't know. We were really having a tough time at this school, and then this baby arrived. Something really changed. We became like, quote unquote, human or something. Find active, meaningful ways. Is it chess? Is it understanding character? Here's one more thing. This is a program that helps children understand why character matters. This is the piece that I think we overlook. We don't talk nearly enough, so kids are more likely to adopt it because the kids don't understand, why should I bother to use character? What's so good about it? And so Barbie Mon's highfalutin, but it's pretty darn easy. Each year, the students in her class decide on a project at the beginning of a year that discerns them. Is it cyberbullying? Is it climate change? Is it aggressive behavior patterns? That year they chose empathy. Empathy. They begin to read about it. This is a whole year project, and once a week, they have each one of them has a binder this big. Those are the binders of their research in 5th grade. They write letters to people. They read books about it, and they Skype with me. And the first question from a group of 5th graders, to this day I get shook. A first question from a group of 5th graders was turning to me and goes, Dr. Borba, don't you think parents should be concerned? Empathy has dropped 40% in the last 30 years. Why aren't parents teaching empathy? They knew the research. What they then do is put together, what are we going to do to help parents learn empathy? Put together an assembly at the end of it. I asked Barbie Monty, the teacher, how do you know this works? She said, because the parents say their kids are changing. One mom took her daughter, one of these kids, out to lunch. And as they were going out to lunch on the weekend, they passed a man who was homeless. The daughter turns to the mom and said, Mom, can we give the man some money? Look how sad he looks. And Mom said, okay, we'll use our lunch money and help this man. We'll give him lunch. They went and bought the lunch money, bless the mother, because she said yes. The little girl hands the lunch to the man. The man gets a little teary-eyed, the little girl gets a little teary-eyed, the mom's sobbing at this point. They walk on up, and the mother turns to the kid and says, what was that? And the little girl, 5th grader, turns to the mom and said, Mom, That's called empathy in action. Empathy is a verb, character is a verb. We've got to make it more concrete and meaningful. It's not a bunch of projects, it's not a bunch of ideas. It's like Barbie Monty, all year long they're doing one thing. It's like a baby, once a month the baby comes in. Chess in Armenia, it's once a week. What's your one thing that you're going to help your students learn empathy? I know many of you are aware of, but man can help you learn this a little bit more, that we know that also character has a lot of different parts and parcels. And you don't want to do all these parts and parcels, but you need to understand that we can build in by using values in our approaches, conflict resolution in our strategies. We can use children's literature in our strategies. We can weave in so much of what we're already doing. This isn't new. We just make it a little bit more deliberate and a little more intentional so it makes a difference. And let's look at other possibilities. Just a few other things that you can do. We also need to address our children's behavior in character terms. If you don't remember anything other than this one, sit up and listen carefully. What we've discovered is that several studies are going on around the world. The parents these days are not talking character nearly enough to their children. As a result, children don't think that character matters. Harvard did a study where they looked at thousands of middle school and high school kids and they asked them, what's the most important thing in your house? That you get the grade, that you're healthy and happy, or that you're kind and caring? And they were shook because only 20% of American kids said kind and caring mattered in their homes. When they talked to the parent and they said, doesn't it matter? All the parents said, of course it matters, but they're not being deliberate enough in their attempts. Ideas? Idea number one, I remember this the first time I came to Manila. I'll never forget it. This is at Southbridge School. This was outside a mango tree. And there's a teacher with a little boy. And I figured, okay, this kid's in trouble for discipline. Until I realized, what that teacher is doing is having the character evaluation with the child. Every kid takes a moment with the teacher throughout the year to discuss how's your character doing, what are you doing in order to take it up a notch, here's the virtues I see in you, what's your plan to improve. As a result, the kids began to realize that character matters in that particular classroom. What are you doing to make sure that your kids understand that character matters in your school? Talk it. This is so natural and so simple. Idea number two, encourage your teachers to just use the traits of character, the terms of character. Not just nice job, but that was being persevering because, using the word because you hung in there and you didn't give up. Or that was being kind because you held the door open to someone. Kids act how they see themselves to be. Kids act how they see themselves to be. And many children are dormant because they don't hear enough of images being planted in them so they understand and interpret, I'm a kid who has character. Look at the child who's struggling the most. Who are you worried about that you're losing sleep over? I know there's numbers of them in our heads, but is there one child? One of the most brilliant things that I saw a group of Indiana principals do, I was about ready to do a keynote with hundreds of principals, and I looked at the tops of the tables in front of them, and there was dozens of little teeny, you buy them on Amazon, plastic figures. What the principal in charge said, everybody take one figure. Take a figure and hold it. While Dr. Borba is talking the entire time, I want you to keep holding that child in your hand. And now I want you to think about who is that child, personalize that child. Who are you worried about? What's the name of that child? And every time Dr. Borba comes up with an idea, can you use that idea with that child? It was transformational because all of the principals began to empathize with the child. It became far more realistic. Here's another one that I love. This is a principal. What he does, once a month, he brings in a photograph of a child. This is pretty darn simple. It's your faculty meeting, and this doesn't go any place between you and the staff. And what the principal does is say, here's the child I've adopted this month. I'm really concerned about her. I'm not going to tell you everything that's going on in their home, but I want you to do something for me. If you see her, would you give her a little more tender, loving care? Would you tell her that she does have the character strength of kindness, or she does have the character legitimate? What happened, I asked the principal, because I went back the following year, how's that program going? He said, it's absolutely amazing. It's transformational. What's now happening is every one of the kids changes a little bit. You see them smile. It doesn't mean they're going to stop counseling, but you see a little outward demeanor change. But the most amazing thing he said is that teachers in faculty meetings are now bringing in photographs of the kids they're worried about, and they're sharing with one another. That's what it's all about in terms of character. It's getting it off the worksheet into our hearts, looking at how those children are behaving. What are we going to do in order to turn their lives around? Simple little things. Idea, this one you may have heard, is the Capstone Project. We're finding in the United States that so many of our kids are so void in character that senior year, this is the greatest project ever. Senior year English, every child is to write an essay about who they are. What is their character? Who are you as a person? How are you going to contribute? They said at the beginning kids didn't have a clue who they were. But by the end of the year, they had written the essay, and now they stand up and deliver it to the staff, and that is what the graduation present from the kids to the staff is. Here's who I am, and here's what my character is. If you like that, and you teach it at a high school, look up Capstone Project. Think about incorporating something like that. There's so many simple ideas you can do. Is there one you want to try? Again, you don't do all of these. But if there's one idea you want to try or use, those are the things you say, I'm going to try presenting this. You think big, but you start small. And then here's another idea that every one of us is already doing this for ages. We know that literature is part and parcel of everything we teach in our classrooms and part and parcel of our schools. But we also know something else from research. We know that the right books can instill something called ethical behaviors, ethical reasoning, and also moral imagination and empathy. Not every book can do it. But in the United States right now, and maybe here, the most popular books for children are the book Wonder and Harry Potter. When you look at Wonder and Harry Potter, what they're reading by themselves, when you look at Amazon charts, they're off the charts. That's moral imagination. Kids are stepping into the shoes of that character. And all we need to do is make sure that the books we are introducing to our kids, particularly a digital-driven population of students who hasn't been reading from books, they've been reading from iPads, or they've been reading from digital. By the way, if you don't have a love of books, don't start them on an iPad. Start them on a real book, because the longer they have a real book, says the research, the longer they'll become a deeper thinker. But here's the possibilities of life. You look at all the books you already have and you say, what am I going to do to turn my kids around, to make a difference on their lives? And simple ideas you may want to consider. Number one is, don't try all of those, but ask your librarian. Go through, one of the books I have is Thrivers, another one is on Selfie. Every chapter has lists of children's literature. Maybe what you do is say, this month it's going to be fortitude, or this month it's going to be optimism. And that's what you do, is you deliberately and purposely read books about them. Here's another idea. One of my favorite books is called Hey Little Lamb. Don't step on me. I'm an ant, don't step on me. It looks like an absolute perfect book for first and second graders. But the person who read this book was Rob McPhee. He's a superintendent. He stood on a stage with 2,500 high school kids and said, here's our book of the year. He read Hey Little Lamb to the kids and said, this is our touchstone in this school. We build each other up. We don't step on people, because bullying can begin to escalate. Find the books that work for you. Find the books that become your touchstones. Other ideas? Well, how about Have You Filled the Bucket Today? We love that book. But what they did at this school, this is elementary, is every kid in the entire school had a paper bucket. And what they did is, it's all about filling each other up with kind deeds. The whole theme of the whole year was kindness. And then they make sure that every kid had kind thoughts in their bucket, put in there by other kids. What are you doing to just nurture the character and align it with them? You can also do a couple of other things. Ancient practices. School-wide DEAR programs, I love them. DEAR stops, drop everything and read. every day at the same time. I don't care if it's a custodian, the cafeteria worker, the secretary, the principal, and the teacher, and every kid has a book and you read for 10 minutes. Or you read for 15 minutes. You walk through these schools and it's absolutely golden. What they're doing here is they're reading them in pairs so that you encourage your other friend who's reading. Good job, you're doing great. Or you have cross-age tutors. The big kids come in and read to the little kids. That's a gold mine. If your high school is nearby an elementary school, that's the best service project there is. There's so many ideas you can do. What you want to do is just keep helping kids step into the shoes of the character and understand how the book addresses the theme. Anne Frank, The Diary of a Young Girl. What the middle school teacher does is choose that book when it comes to empathy. And then as the kids are reading it, she does an empathy project. And that is, each time you read, you put down the page number, what's the fact you're learning, and how would you feel if you were Anne? What happens is the kids go up a level in terms of, oh my gosh, what a level, now I understand where she's coming from. Ask, principal, ask your students, pull them out, and ask one question. What's the most important book that any teacher in your entire time you've been at this school has introduced to you that you think should always, always be mandated reading for the rest of our school's career? You'll discover which books are resonating. And over again, Outsiders is the one that comes up in the United States for middle school. Why, I say to the kids, because you understand people from another view. What books are you using to help kids understand it? Or how about The Long Walk to Water? Empathy? Mind-boggling. More kids are telling me this is the book that's changing their life. It's a true story based on a child who lives in Sudan who every day has to walk 8 hours just to find water that's clean water to bring it back to his village. I asked one child what resonates about the book. He said, I discovered something. I said, what did you discover? I said, that kid in that book is just like me. He said, why are you the same? He said, well, he's smart and I'm smart. The only thing that's different is he doesn't have the same opportunities as I am. And then what they're doing at the school as the science teachers are helping the children understand, what does dirty water do? How are we going to help it? But the most important thing, the entire school is now raising money for a well. And as a result, it's impacting empathy and service. I'm not saying try all of those, but I'm saying moral literature is so core and critical to character. You also need to weave it in. The big thing that teachers are saying is, I don't have time. If I was going to tell you the simplest thing I've seen one of you do that changed the high school, is that every time, once a month, you have a faculty meeting, you ask teachers to come with their lesson plan book. Sit down with your lesson plan book of the kinds of things you're going to be talking about for the next month. And one other thing, when you're talking about this for the next month, remember that this month, our theme is going to be empathy. But what they then do is they talk to each other about how can I take empathy and weave it into the subjects I naturally teach. So simple, because now it's not an extra add-on. This is what I'm already going to teach, but I'm going to be a little more intentional about weaving empathy in. And now all of a sudden you've got this from the staff. We can talk about science and annihilation of endangered species, acid rain, what the impact of robotics is going to have on the world. Or how about music? I love this one. The music teacher decides to make sure that Beethoven's Fifth is played that particular month, because that's what was played when the Berlin Wall came down in Germany that time. How about the English teacher doing reflective journals, moral identity biographies, all different kinds of possibilities. But what the principal said is, every time I do this once a month, it has the teachers just realize all they need to do is be a little more intentional. It doesn't have to be hard, it doesn't have to be difficult. It means let's just weave in what we're already doing, but you can't do this. You can't do it unless you first understand what it is we're going to weave in. You've got to choose those particular topics. Just a couple other ones. Socrates, years ago, told us that the best way to teach character is through examples. Real examples. The first reason I say this to you is that we've seen a kind of an erosion in character in our own country. And that's because some of the adults have been behaving kind of badly. And the kids aren't seeing the examples that they should be seeing. Tune it up in yourself. If it's kindness month, then what are you doing to make sure that kids generate and see that kindness? Also, in your history books, in your English books, in your science books. Some of the best ones I've seen are, if it's kindness month, then you see posters of examples of real people all over the school who emulated. Let me just give you, there's really 3 things you're doing. When you're talking about character and morality, you gotta feel it in your heart, you gotta know it in your head, and you gotta do it with your hands and your feet. We're very good at our talking about it and our lectures. But the more we get into doing what Barbie Monty's little girl, the 5th grader, said, Mommy, that's empathy in action. Or that 3rd grader who said, empathy is a verb. That's the point. They're realizing it has to be active. So let me just share the most active thing I've ever seen that just gave me chills when I was writing Thrivers. I was trying to find an example of a teacher who wove it in, who taught moral feeling and knowing and understanding and doing. And I think over the top is a gentleman named Norm Kennard. He's a history teacher in Kansas, and he does one thing that I think is, if you don't do anything other than this, ask your teachers to do this. If you don't teach anything other than the single most important mantra you hope your kids catch from spending 9 months in your classroom, what would it be? Can you choose that mantra and put it over the top of your bulletin board? Now he does it. Norm Kennard said, I want them to learn history, but above all else, I want them to learn character, and I want to see how they're woven together. And so his mantra is, who changes one person can change the world whole. He said, I want kids to know they can be change makers. I want my kids to leave here, yeah, knowing history, but also to be able to know, and you can make a difference in the world. He says, I got one other thing that I do. I keep a box in my classroom, and I've kept it for 25 years. I cut out real articles about real people. You gotta look for them, but they're there. They show up. I was looking at your Manila Times today. There's some fabulous articles about real moral people. You cut them out and you put them in the box. You cut them out and you put them in the box. Then he does something else. Character can also be learned as a cooperative team. So each year he puts his kids into teams of 4. And then he says, as one assignment, yeah, you're gonna learn history, but the other thing you're gonna do is you're gonna find one example of somebody who emulates character. And you're gonna either do a play, or you're gonna do a project, or you're gonna do a paper together to let us know about why that person changed the world. So he puts 4 girls together, and they say, we don't have a clue, we can't find anybody. He said, then go to the box. They go to the box, and at that point, they go, well, there's this article in here, Mr. Kennard, and it talks about this woman in Poland during World War II who saved 2,500 Jewish children. There's nothing in Google about her. Watch out, because this is a population of kids who are going to ask Alexa for every answer. And he said, dig deeper. I love that answer. Dig deeper and don't do one Google search. Dig deeper. That's what you want for deeper thinkers. They come running back and said, it's true. She really did exist. We called it Holocaust museums. She still lives today. And she saved 2,500 children. Tell me about her. And the children began to describe Irina Sendler. She was only this tall, less than 5 feet. Every day she disguised herself as a nurse, Mr. Kennard, and every day she walked past Nazi guards with a suitcase in her hand. Her ploy was to go and talk to the parents who were at that death camp to see if she could save their children. And one by one, she said, I promise I will reunite you at the end of the war. I'll put your name in a glass jar. I'll put the contact of your child with you, but let me save your child. Can you imagine? One by one, in a suitcase, in a pipe, in a coffin, she brings children past her, past the guards. The girls came running in and said, we found a picture. We found a picture of just some of the children's lives, they said. We've got to do something so that other people know about her. And so what the girls decided to do was put together a little play. They just made it pretty darn simple. By the way, theater and art, music, they're highly correlated with that. But they just put together a little play pretending they're Irina Zendler. They give it to the local Kiwanis Club. They give it to the Rotary Club. The Rotary Club turns to the girls and said, "Is she still living now?" And they said, "Yeah." So they said, "Well, then you've got to go and meet her." They give the girls tickets with their teacher. They fly them to Poland. And that was the moment they met Irina Zendler. At that point, nobody knew about this woman. But the most fascinating thing was she was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize due to those girls. The girls asked her, "Why did you do it?" This altruistic person she was, she said, "I wish I could have saved more, but my father always taught me that if a man is drowning, you must save him. Doesn't make any difference who he is, what color his skin is, how much money or income he has, you must save him." It changed the girls' lives. I'm not saying you do projects like that every day. But what we've got to do is something critical. Sit up and listen. You got to expose your kids to goodness. You got to give them a chance to realize, yeah, the world has been kind of a doom and gloom part. But if you don't expose children to people of character, they don't have a reference to copy. Who am I going to copy? What am I going to do? There's lots of things you can do, but remember, cultivating character is really ongoing. It's a process. It's not a product. You keep going with it. It's woven in, it's authentic, it's meaningful. And as a result, if you do it and you do it right, what will happen is your children will catch it because it takes a lot of time and effort to practice. Some ideas that you also may want to do is look at your discipline right now. Along the way, one final thing you may want to consider is your discipline one that's going to help restore the child? So it's going to instill character. And I mention this because one of the biggest things we're seeing, are you seeing this, Philippines, is a regression in children's behavior. Are you seeing them more socially anxious? Are you seeing them a little more irritable? Are you seeing that maybe they're not talking out loud or raising their hand like they used to be? All kinds we're seeing, and what we're recognizing, the reason for it is because the skill sets that instill character are lying dormant. They haven't been practicing the skills enough, and as a result, that's what truncates them. A couple of brilliant things you can do. 2 ideas for your staff. Idea number 1, what they're doing at Eagle Creek School in Connecticut, excuse me. It's a 30-minute staff meeting daily, but not every teacher shows up. Every day at this school, here's why, and this is a different parameter. Every day, this is a large school, there's always a group of teachers that are worried about one child. They don't know what to do for the child and they can't identify the child's strengths. And so what they do is they have just an announcement that before school, principal provides the donuts and the coffee. We're going to have anybody who's interested come and talk about Johnny. Anybody who's interested, custodian can show up, cafeteria worker can show up, and during that 30 minutes, what they do is vow that you're going to identify the child's strengths. You're going to figure out how to positively turn this kid around. What's the new thing we can do instead? And as a result, it's changing the whole dynamics of the school because the staff is working together. My favorite one is called a 10-minute daily standing meeting. It must be a standing meeting. Because as soon as you sit, it stretches the length of the time of the meeting. So you have 10 minutes only. It's in a classroom where every teacher walks in right before the bell, puts their back to the wall, and you discuss the character of the term of the day. Or what's the behavior that you're worried about. But Douglas Fisher, who designed it, said the most amazing thing is when we bring up a student who maybe has a behavior problem, all of a sudden, teachers start saying, well, here's what I'm doing. Have you tried this? 10 minutes, sometimes it's 8 minutes, but it changed the culture of the school. Notice there's lots of things you can do. It isn't one thing, it's multiple ideas. And that's what character is all about. We've been talking today about several things that you can do, and I think we need to just think think about those ideas so we can just play them all together of what will be the takeaways for you. Number one is your touchstone. What is it? What is the drive of your North Star at your school? Don't copy the person sitting next to you's touchstone. It has to be unique to yours. It has to be driven by your culture and your staff. If you already have it, say, got it, check on, move along. Let's keep going. Other ideas. Are you talking character enough with your students? Particularly those kids who work the hardest for you not to like them, and a lot of times they're highly successful. You act how you see yourself to be. What are you doing to instill in that child when you see the character? Here's what it looks like, and I'm seeing you do it. Maybe it's a character mentor, or maybe it's taking a moment to describe the character to the child. How about your books? There's a natural one. Many schools start character programs because you already have the books there. But instead of just doing the random books, it's let's align them by the virtue. Maybe it's optimism, or maybe it's perseverance, or maybe it's self-control. Who knows what else? How about it's Norm Kennard? What he does is give kids examples of character. Here's what it looks like. He's got a simple little box, and he just keeps that box filling up with examples of real people. He puts his kids in teams because that seems to be a crucial piece of character, to be able to work together. But they also begin to realize his mantra. He who changes the world whole. What's your mantra? Character is something that we can instill. It's never too late to instill character. It's something that our children are not born with. It must be developed. Character is made up of habits. What we've got to do is realize there's a lot of habits out there. Choose the ones that you think your students need. Choose ones that skill sets are lying dormant. Look at your referrals. Look at your behaviors. Listen to the teachers and say, here's the reoccurring nightmares, and look at the commonalities of what behaviors the teachers keep talking about. Maybe that's where you go with it. And take a moment to do the positive formation. My favorite is the Indiana principals who are holding the little character child, but personalizing and saying, here's the student I'm concerned about. And as I talk about all these activities, I'm going to say, what can I do with that student? Or the Calgary principal who brings in the photograph and said, here's the student I'm worried about. Please give her a little more tender, loving care or smile. So many things you can do. I just want to end with one thing. Some of us, I know you're dealing with some very difficult children. But part of character and character educators is that you realize your purpose. You realize the difference you can make, that it's curriculum and academics plus character. That's how you really create that strong school. I had finished a speech in Long Beach, California, years ago. It was a packed room, and at the end of it, I kept talking about how educators are the hope. You really are the person who can make the difference, instill the character, help that child reframe his image about who he is, maybe help him see, here's a book, and if you love it, keep on reading, and here's another one. It doesn't make a difference what it is, there's simple things we can do. But above all, you make a difference. And in many cases, what research says on resilience, if it's not the parent, a teacher comes up the second highest correlated as the person who was my change master, who never gave up on me. I finished the speech, and the gentleman off to the side said, can I just talk to you for a minute? And he introduced himself as a psychologist at the school site. I just have to ask you, he said, to please keep telling teachers and administrators how powerful you are, but most importantly, to never give up on a child. Never give up. He said, let me tell you my story. He said, I did my psychological practice in a residential treatment home with very, very troubled children. And one child to this day has haunted me, and I'll never forget it until my dying day. We all have those kids. You'll never forget that student. He said the student's name was Ryan. And I remembered the child so vividly because he was catatonic. Every time I talked to him, he'd rock back and forth. It never looked like he was getting through or understanding what I was saying. It was like he was deaf. He never blinked. Catatonic children, if you ever dealt with one, are extraordinary, heartbreaking, because it's their way of coping. You see, he'd been sexually abused. He'd been locked in closets. He had burn marks all over him from his grandparents. And the only way he's going to survive is to be catatonic. But he said, every day I just go sit down with him and say, how you doing, Ryan? I'd sit there and talk to myself for 30 minutes. How's it going, Ryan? And I'd be as calm as I could and keep talking, and I never got a blink. I just got rolling back and forth. And I did it for weeks. And then one day, he's rolling back and forth by a Coke machine, and I'm putting in a Coke for myself. The Coke came, and I turn and look at myself and go, that was rude. So I turn and say, right, Ryan, would you like a Coke? Of course, he didn't say a thing. So I get him a Coke, I put it next to him, and I say, here you go, Ryan. And then I sit down and told him, Ryan, I just wanted you to know how much I've enjoyed you. Today's my last day. I left him. Here's my business card if you ever need anything, but I'm going to be going to another school site, Ryan, and I'll never forget you. I hope everything goes well for you. And of course, he didn't blink. He didn't hear. He just kept rocking. And I always wondered about the child. I started working with severe disturbed children at another school site miles down the road, and one day, you just need one day, the school bus drives up. I'm on bus duty. And the bus driver says, hey, are you Dr. Johnson? And I said, yeah, I'm here. He says, well, Dr. Johnson, there's somebody out here that wants to say hi to you. I looked up and the windows of the bus come down. This kid puts his head out and said, hey, Dr. Johnson, it's me, Ryan. I've just been meaning to thank you for that Coke. I said, I almost fell on the ground. The teachers had to pick me up. The bus drops off and Ryan's just smiling. I'm going, you never know. Do not give up on a child, and that's what character is all about. It's about us realizing the power we can do to make a difference on children's lives, like those moms in Reggio Emilia. This is a different world. What do our kids need? Yeah, they need the academics, but they need a culture that's caring. They need people who aren't going to give up on them, and they need you in their lives. Take care of yourselves. Now turn to the person on your left and your right, give them a hug and say, man, am I glad to be a member of this profession with you.
Galing. Sa huli. Hinahanap pa siya ng bata.
Okay, wonderful. Wow, have you recovered? Why don't we give her another round of applause? Never give up on a child. Definitely. I mean, what a way to end it. And with that, I'm sure you have a lot of questions, so send them in. Right now, you can send your questions through Septo Education Facebook. It's on their Facebook page. Just message your questions, so of course, Dr. Borba can address them there. Okay, so we do have some questions that we have gathered already. So, you know, some of them you may have already addressed through your talk, but, you know, we can never emphasize them enough. So one of the questions would be, what advice would you give to schools that are just beginning to prioritize character development as an essential part of their educational mission? So,
Great question. Think big, start. That's question number one. Now, there's also something I think is brilliant. I love this person. Her name is Roosevelt Moss Cantor. Don't write it down, just remember it. She's from Harvard, and she's been looking at change. How do we create change in our schools, for instance? And she said, we do something wrong. We start by trying to bring in all this outside stuff. She said, don't. Use the concept called kaleidoscopic thinking. This is brilliant. She said, you remember when you were a kid and you used a kaleidoscope and you keep turning it, and every time you turn it, you see different images, but you never put in a different piece. She said, if you really want to create change, start with reconfiguring what you already have at your school, like using the books,
or what's the best practice you want to use, or whatever it is. Start that way and then build your way up. You're going to get more receptivity from their staff because they're not going to be overwhelmed with it. And then your next piece is do the deeper dive into helping them understand why should you do character. Then we'll have the intentionality.
I guess also with the stuff that they already are familiar with in school, it's not quite intimidating to the staff and whatnot. Okay, great. Now we do have another question. How can we engage parents and caregivers in supporting our school's character development efforts?
I love this one because I didn't bring this one on today, but it is a huge piece of character education. You just don't want to overwhelm yourself with too many things, but so many of you are already at that level that you can take it up a notch. Parents have to be a core piece of it, and in all fairness, many parents don't know what is character education and how do I do this. So let me just give you 3 or 4 ideas that I've seen that I love. Number one is as soon as you come up with maybe you're going to do a monthly theme and you come up with here's our themes of the month, refrigerator magnets are a gold mine. I see principals making them so that they send them home to parents, put them on your refrigerator, here's what we're doing and here's what the monthly theme looks like. The one form that parents never throw away is your cafeteria menu schedule. That always goes. So if you have a cafeteria menu schedule, what the principal did, Dan Wilson at Crestview, he puts, and here's some things you can try at home right next to the cafeteria menu schedule, but it's on the same form. Look at your website, your school website. If you don't have one, revamp it a little bit. But each time you do a monthly theme, or maybe you're going to teach a skill, add it to your website so the kids will see it. But here's the gold mine. You ready for this one? The best thing I've ever seen anywhere is in Temecula, California. I wrote a book called Thrivers, and the school wanted to adopt it for all year long. Okay, so here's what they did. They took a different theme each month, but who is teaching the skills? They have groups of children called Thriver Squads. Your students. Once a month, once a week, they meet in the outside at the lunch room with a counselor or one of you, and what the kids do is video the skill. We're talking a 1 minute, like a YouTube special on how to do deep breathing or how to persevere. And then every day when you're showing the skill, I've never seen more engaged kids who are actually looking at the skill because it's being taught by their peers. But the flash drive also goes home. So once a month, the kids have to teach the parent the skill that's being taught in their schools. Otherwise, you don't get that transfer. So maybe what you want to do is involve your kids. They're a gold mine. They can be the one to teach the skill, but video them put it on your flash drive and put it on your website.
It's just like having an 8-month-old baby.
I love that. I mean, what a great way. Okay.
We do have another question. What strategies can we use to address, okay, you did mention it earlier towards the end of your talk, but address behavior problems and disciplinary issues while still promoting character development and positive behavior?
A couple of things about this. The first thing is, I want you to be a little more intentional. The most powerful things I'm now seeing, and you may not want to dive into this now if you're just starting character, but it's called collaborative problem solving. And what they found is that too often when we do behavior management, it's us directing the child. The new approach is the child working with you. Let's figure out what skill were we missing that time, because we've already got our mission statement, we know what it is. It's a process where you spend 5 minutes or so working with the child, not on all the behaviors, but one, like how to be respectful, or next time here's what to do instead. And then you keep working with the child so that he actually begins to learn the skill. And what we're finding, seriously, they're doing this with the most troubled children in residential treatment homes and juvenile delinquency, and it's working. Because now the child knows what to do instead, but they're involved in the process with you, and they're seeing gradual change. Collaborative problem solving. You guys got that?
It is incredible. And thank you for that, because I know that's always been, one of the issues that we do have to contend and deal with. Resource material. Oh, we have, okay. Keep the questions coming, everyone. Okay, resources, materials that you would recommend to help us implement the school's character development efforts.
Anything by Thomas Lickona, Lickona. He is a gold mine. Educating for character or anything else would be powerful. Van Rentnoy is going to be able to give you more resources, because character.org is incredible what you already have. The book I wrote called Thrivers is on Amazon. It's got 7 character strengths that seem to be the most highly correlated to resilience and mental health. If you want empathy, there's another book I wrote called Unselfie. Be an unselfie, don't be a self taking selfies. But there's dozens of them. Once you look at educating for character, you can go on Amazon and you'll see other books that are similar to it. Then you can start looking at them. But those are the things you want to do, is find the book that's going to resonate most with your staff. And then what I found over and over again is the best ones do a year-long book study on that one particular book. If you want Thrivers, you can go to my website and there's free downloads on educator book discussion guides. But every book would have the same thing.
Wonderful, that's a big help. Okay, we do have a question from Miss Josie Burgos, LaSalle Green Hills. I think she's with us here. Her question would be, how can we ensure that balance between excellence in academics and character is present?
Well, they go hand in hand. You cannot have academic excellence unless you have character strengths, and that's the piece I think that the biggest thing we've done wrong is we've seen it as either or. Or if I do character, it's going to get in the way of academic performance. Why? Well, if you really want solid academic performance, you've got to have perseverance. You've got to have fortitude. You've got to have self-control. And so many schools, what they're doing is looking at, I think it's taking a step back and saying to yourself as the administrator, what do you keep hearing from the staff that seems to be getting in the way of their kids' academic performance? And in the end, what you'll actually discover is the dormant skill that's lagging, that's missing, particularly over the last 3 years. Skills like that are learned through practice. What you then do is, if you see the pattern, and many of your administrators, if I walked into your faculty room, I'd see another thing. I'd see chart paper on your walls. And I'd see one question from you is, what's the behavior that's getting in the way of your kids' academic performance? And then teachers, it could be a different question each week. Teachers start putting post-its or they just write on them. You're gonna then look and see, is there a pattern? All right, one teacher is always going to be saying they don't have any self-control, but are you noticing that maybe 20 saying the same thing? All of a sudden that becomes your skill of the week or your skill of the year, depending on where it is, and then that's where you can begin.
Okay, more questions in. We have Maria Carolina, and we have challenging parents.
Yes, we do.
What tips could you give us in helping build a collaborative homeschool?
Yeah, here we go. First of all, I want you to take a moment and I want you to be very aware of something. Your students are stressed, but we have never seen such rises in parental stress. Let's have some empathy for the parents. We've looked at a lot of them going, I don't know another way. I'm worried about day to day, can I get by? Financial problems, and we looked at that and went, boy, am I doing something wrong. Then the next thing we did is we started to look at behaviors of some of the best studies that have ever been done. A guy named Brookover tried to figure out, how do we get more parents involved? And he found that we needed fabulous surveys from parents. The one thing we were doing wrong is not being invitational enough. They start to come when they're preschool parents, and kindergarten and first grade, then you notice the drop-off. And when we asked the parents, why aren't you showing up? The first thing the parents came up with is, I don't know if I can make a difference on my child. Why should I bother? That hurts, but they really don't. The second thing is, if I get called, I feel like I did something wrong again, or my child did something wrong. So it was a more invitational approach. Ideas, I've seen book clubs start. I've seen parents say, the worst thing that Brookover found that we did is use the educator approach by trying to give parents too much stuff. So instead, maybe it's the best thing I've ever seen was, again, the flash drive.
for homework tonight or this week, would you show your mom and your dad how to do that 1-2 breathing? You know, when you start to get upset, take a deep, slow breath, hold it, and then slowly let it out. What happens is the kid is actually teaching the parent stress management. It's sneaky, that is the backdoor approach, so maybe that's the idea. Think big, start small.
We do have a problem, I think, not with the children, but with the parents, because we have another question here. So we have Mayor Enriquez, pretty much the same, but we'll just read it anyway. What do we do if the character we intend to develop within our students do not match that of the character parents? They develop at home.
Here is something that is extraordinarily important that you need to sit up and listen. Character is situational. You cannot change the home, but you can change your school culture. That means what we've discovered in research that blows us all away. When that child leaves that dysfunctional home or whatever's going on that is not being modeled on character, he leaves and walks through your door. All of a sudden you've got a new set of rules and standards and expectations, and his behavior will match because that's what you expect. That's why that touchstone, is that the Staten way? Here's what the Staten way, that may be what you're doing at home, but this is what you do in the school. You can't change the home, but you can change your school culture. Take it up.
Well said, well said. Next one, William Solomon of the Sacred Heart Academy of Pasig. What is one advice you can give to a teacher who is struggling to teach values, education, if they themselves are lacking in it?
First of all, you were all laughing, but that is common. Every single schooler is always one of you saying, what am I going to do? You can't change the character of that teacher, but we're finding that many times what you're doing is you're partnering the teacher up with another teacher as a partner. You will also do something profound that we've now discovered is one of the best tools for administrators that we don't do nearly enough. And that is when you do site visits, and do them a lot more if you can, and it doesn't have to be any more than 3 minutes of stopping by. Get yourself a set of thank you notes, or just a set of little handwritten notes, and make sure that each time you visit a classroom, you write down one thing you see that's doing right. Sometimes it's hard and stretching to find the one thing. What we have discovered is that if you point out what is doing well, the behavior, the teacher's more likely to duplicate it. Sometimes they're struggling, they don't know another way, so maybe that's the way to go.
I mean, we can also use the same methods that we use for the children.
Exactly.
So you come in and you have a picture of the teacher that you would like to help out. You know, how can I help this teacher today, you know? I mean, why not?
In all fairness, here's the other thing. We're looking at a burnout rate in the United States that is absolutely unparalleled. We're looking at 1 in 4 American teachers leaving the profession. What we're looking at is unprecedented, and it means that so many of them are at the level where their stress is risen. Here's a little point. When stress rises, and I'm saying this because I know many of you and many of your own faculty is under a lot of stress, but when stress keeps rising, you have to dial your empathy down in order to survive, and if you don't, burnout is the outcome. And that's what we're seeing. By the way, the best way to change burnout is not bubble baths. It's creating a culture where the person feels safe and secure and welcome. That works for not just the kids, but also for the staff.
And I guess mental health issues would come into play as well.
Huge. We're looking at that. I'm trying to track, Philippines, I apologize, I've been trying to track your stats, and I'm not seeing it, though you're telling me that that's an issue. And it is everything that's happening. One of the most unique things I'm seeing, because some of you are going, but I'm not trained as a PhD, you don't have to be. Baltimore schools did something so simple. What they did is they created bookmarks. They went to a website, which is, you've got websites, look at your best prestigious website of what are traits of depression. And you created a bookmark of here's some signs to warnings. They could be for your students, they could be for your staff, they could be the parents. Teachers love them because they said, I don't know, I should worry. But now they
they have a bookmark in front of them, they put it to their lesson plan books, and they are tuned in a little more because we're seeing it unparalleled, and it involves everyone, and it's frankly a very scary scenario.
And parents as well. I mean, you know, it's something that we don't know, are they going through stress, and how do we actually help them? You know, most people would say, you know, just toughen up and just go through it, but you don't know exactly, you know, how to deal with those situations. Okay, we do have one more from Miriam Beroya. Can we start with our school core values, wherein we always incorporate in our learning plans as part of our valuing and character building?
I think yes. I'm going to say yes, and I hope I'm gauging the question right. Yes. Ideally, you slowly start. The brilliant thing was the principal who had the teachers come in once a month with your lesson plan and say, here's the trait of the month, how are you going to weave it in? And they said they got the least resistance because the staff would go, oh yeah, well, I'm already going to teach that. I can now weave it in. Then you can slowly take it up and take it up and take it up. That's where you start.
Okay. Are we? It's never ending. All right, okay, a lot of questions, but of course, you know, we won't be able to answer all of your questions. However, you can keep sending them through SEPTO Education Facebook, and of course, we'll make sure that you get them and you're going to have to answer them and respond. Okay. We do have Blue Garcia, Southcrest School, and how do I help parents as well? Okay. How do I help educate parents to create a safe space for their children at home? Sometimes students dread going home and express having a safe space at home.
I love this question. And last night, I was talking to parents from Woodrose and Southbridge. And what the most important thing I told the parents is, you've got to create a safe space for your child. Too often what you're doing is you're putting your child in timeout, and they're not having a chance to be able to soothe down. So what you do is the first step is, and you can suggest this by creating safe spaces in classrooms or in cafeterias or in libraries, and it's nothing more than asking the parent to please walk around and with the child, what would be things that you would need to help you soothe? I'm talking about, I don't care if the kid's a teen, my book. I like to read books. Good. Natalie, she's 14. She said it's Mozart. I looked at her and said, Mozart? How'd you know it was Mozart? My mom was really crafty, and she kept putting different kinds of music over the loudspeaker in our house, and every time Mozart would come in, my whole body would just kind of decompress. So I loaded my iPad up with Mozart. What's happening is our children don't have things to decompress with. So you may want to suggest on your website, here's a simple thing that you can do. You don't have to buy anything, parents, but maybe what you can do is put together things that you already have, and you can put photos. You can go online to Google searches, and you can say, here's what some parents did to create just safe places. It could be a beanbag for a little one and my teddy bear. For a bigger kid, it could be a couche ball. For a bigger kid, it could be whatever helps soothe him. That's the first thing, so parents get actually a recess from their child. The second thing is, you may want to suggest to a parent, because they're reacting instead of responding, create a calm down signal, which means if I'm out of control, I don't want to talk. Instead, I'm going to go like this, and it just means, would you honor that in my house? After a while, kids begin to use it, and the whole family starts to calm down. Not too many ideas, but those seem to resonate the most with the parents last night.
One more from Miss Lynn Abanil from Treston International College, and the question would be, how would you know if you have already achieved the character you want to develop?
In yourself?
I could be in yourself, in the school,
in your children.
Children.
Like
I think children.
In the students, what you would do is, for instance, in the book Thrivers or Educating for Character or anything else,
you can find resources that tell you here's what characteristics of perseverance look like, or here's what behaviors of children who are strong in self-control or strong in optimism look like, or strong in empathy. What you then do, I would suggest, to make this work, is not just put it's the word of the month, because that's not where you're at. You're trying to get, ideally, characters changing behavior from the inside out. You then help your teachers see, but here's some things that a child would do to show fortitude. And there are many schools that actually are now having new grading formats. They're not formal, but they're taking a moment like Southbridge of looking with the child and going, but here's what I'm seeing you doing. You are demonstrating good fortitude, but here's one more thing you can do to take this up a notch. It's being more behavior driven with the trade, and I think that's what we're not doing nearly enough. Knowing what the end product looks like before you say it's the word of the month will really help you, because then you'll know what do you want to honor, what do you want to say. That's good empathy in action. Thank you for being so perseverant, because it's what you did.
If not, we're just going to have you come back, walk through our halls, and ask them, what's your mission, or what is your goal, and what is it that you want to achieve. Thank you so much. We've taken really a lot of your time with all of the questions. Of course, we really appreciate it. We are going to take a 15-minute break, and I would continue to, of course, suggest to you, don't forget, we do have the raffle, answer your survey, QR codes, and do post on your social media. Use the hashtag the character solution. And with that, we'll be back after 15 minutes.
Makapag-picture tayo. Sabi kayo.
Nalobat ako. Sana malinaw sa copy. Ay!
Ano tawag dito? Power bank ba yun?
Pero yung camera talaga na pang-video. Yan. Chat! Chat! Yan. Hello! Kamusta naman po? Interview.
Served as principal and department chairman of the religion department at the Parent Outreach School. He was also the founding director of Character Education Partnership Philippines, or CEP Philippines, which is an international affiliate of CEP in Washington, D.C., now known as character.org. With this role, he's been invited to speak all over the Philippines, as well as in Washington, San Diego, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, and so much more. He has lectures on character formation now available online through Septo Academy. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that we welcome on stage Dr. Emmanuel Manretor. Big round of applause.
And thank you so much to all of you for joining us today in this very special event. First thing I'd like to do is, of course, to please help me express sincerest gratitude to Dr. Michele Borba for not giving up on us, and this is our 5th time. Michele, thank you. And the other thing is, I need you to help me express our sincerest gratitude to the organizer of this afternoon's event, Septo Education of Dr. Jacob-Sandejas. Thank you so much. And I am supposed to do a little bit of talk before we give our recognition, our awarding to our schools of character. A few announcements. Tomorrow's session of Dr. Borba in St. Paul, Quezon City is totally different from what you heard today. And so if you have teachers who don't have character, sorry, teachers who badly need to know strategies on how to do effective character formation, registration is still open. I'll give you later on the email address that you can send an email to ask for the registration link. The recognition we're going to do today is in conjunction or in partnership with Character.org, formerly known as Character Education Partnership. And they gave me the franchise to be able to start Character Education Partnership Philippines because we know character formation is probably one of the most urgent things we educators are supposed to be doing. And we heard from Dr. Borba's presentation today many of the things that make character formation more urgent than ever. And I know many of you are concerned, as we always sometimes do now. Minsan, you think of these students, you think they are totally different animals. And we need to step up in our character formation practices, initiatives, strategies, because now more than ever, character matters. And the main writer of the 11 principles of character, School of Character, is Dr. Thomas Licona, who is the founder and director, president of Center for the Fourth and Fifth Hours, based in the State University of New York in Portland, USA. He's a very good friend, and he gave me this franchise to start Center for the Fourth and Fifth Hours, Asia. And so we are now trying to push character formation all over Asia. By the way, I would like to acknowledge the presence of our participant from Jakarta, Indonesia, our friend, yes, our friend here. Let's give a reward round of applause. Which is now, I also call the Dr. Thomas Licona Institute for Asia. That's the Center for the Fourth and Fifth Hours. And thanks to CEP, this is the former president, the past 3 presidents have been very supportive of what we do here. And one of the things that we do in the Center for the Fourth and Fifth Hours is to give trainings to teachers, hold conferences like this, and accrediting schools of character. So we have reached out to more than 75,000 teachers already. And the only message is always the same. Please make character formation a top priority. Given the kind of crisis we see in the world today, now more than ever, we need to do character formation, which is nothing else but really teaching our young people to be good people. Making sure that they grow up not just smart, but especially good. Helping you, administrators, schools, to raise good people. So these are the things we are trying to do. Many of you are looking for books of Dr. Michele Borba. Please stay in touch with Zepto Education, Zepto Academy. We will make sure, we will find ways of getting her materials available to you. We have been mentioning Thrivers and Unselfie, but those are only 2 of her 27 best-selling books on character formation. Each one of them equally important, relevant, helpful for schools and parents to do character formation. But the good news is I cannot be going around the country all the time reaching out to people. I also traveled to Sri Lanka to reach out to teachers there. I just came back from there last November, and there were 1,080 teachers who were hungry for character formation seminars, some of them traveling 3 to 4 hours to get to the venue. And I cannot reach out to the entire country, and this is where Zepto comes in. They are making many of these modules that I have available on character formation available in the Zepto Academy. We will tell you more about it, but there are already, for example, 7 courses that are available there. For example, on classroom management, so that we teachers can more effectively do character formation. Because you cannot do effective character formation if you're the kind of teacher who shouts, screams, and yells, and gets upset and loses their patience. So that course is available in the SEPTO Academy. There is one free course, in fact, that is available in the SEPTO Academy that was awarded by PRC 8 CPD units, and it's free, thanks to SEPTO Academy. And it's entitled, thank you, Ako, my high school classmate, for making that available in SEPTO Academy. It's like a self-paced course that you can take, and when you finish all the videos that are there and the activity certificate that you can use for your license renewal. And I myself was surprised that PRC rewarded it with 8 CPD units. And then there is that course on how to teach grit, resilience, and empathy to your students. Or the latest one that we created for SEPTO, improving school climate, bully-proofing your campus. Based especially on one of the books of Dr. Michele Borba, The 6 Essential R's of Bully Prevention. And it's available there for teachers. And because we're going to do a very important ceremony in a while, and many of you will be wondering, I also want my school to be like that, a school of character. And I also want my school to be elevated, to be a school of character, so that the community will know, the parents will know, and the people in the place will know that if you want your child to grow up to be a man or woman of character, this is the school to enroll your kids in. So, we have also some series of webinars that I ran last January, and more than 1,000 teachers from all over the Philippines were able to participate in that. And we have made those videos available also in the SEPTO Academy. There's a course on how to create a kind and caring classroom. There's another one on grit, resilience, and empathy, and many more. So I invite you to explore Zepto, XEPTO, education.com, and you will see all those courses available there. It's free to create an account so that you will be able to access the course on urgency of character formation. That's the one that has 8 CPD units. Okay, so if you are interested to send some more teachers to Dr. Borba's session tomorrow in St. Paul, Quezon City, and it's only 300 pesos per teacher. That's cheaper than the latest movie of Vice Ganda. You can email borbainmanila@gmail.com, borbainmanila@gmail.com, if you want to get the link of the registration link for tomorrow's session. And then on Thursday, she will be back here in the University of Asia Pacific to talk to parents. And again, if you have parents or your staff in charge of parent formation, I encourage you to get them to come on Thursday here in the same auditorium where she's going to talk about a totally different topic, a totally different presentation from what she gave today and from what she's going to give tomorrow. And that one on Thursday is specifically for parents. And if you are very interested to really get your school to be a school of character, and you want to undergo accreditation, please send me a message in man@septoeducation.com. And I'm going to give you the steps on how to go about getting accredited as a school of character. Now we come to the recognition of the schools of character. I mentioned earlier, one of the things we do is organize conferences like this, and these are just some of those pictures. Now, in 2011, we flew in to Manila, one of the directors of CEP based in Washington, D.C., to give a series of seminars on the 11 principles of School of Character, Dr. Russell Jordan. And there were 64 who came. Effectively, those 64 became accreditors qualified accreditors. To be a school of character, okay, let me go back. Experts headed by Dr. Thomas Licona sat down and said, what really constitutes being a school of character? They came up with a list of 11 principles. They said, if a school has even just 8 of these 11, it must be a school of character. It deserves to be elevated as a school of character, not just for prestige, but especially so that the community will know how to be a school of character. So the four schools that we're going to recognize today, we're not just doing it for the prestige, but what we are effectively saying is, ma'am, sir, if you want to know how to be a school of character, visit the schools, interview these administrators, hear them out, learn from them. In other words, part of the accreditation is a sort of outreach, that they have to reach out to the community to share with the rest of the community their experience of how they became a school of character. So, the 11 principles of the school of character, including it's a caring community, that it has high academic standards, that the parents are engaged, that etc. So those are the 11 principles which you can actually access in character.org. And so far we have elevated 2 schools in Cebu, one in Angeles, an international school, and today we're going to elevate one in Laguna, of course, and then today we're going to elevate a new addition to our roster of schools of character in the Philippines. And so, we are ready to do just that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call them one by one to receive their recognition, and I would like to invite the officers, representatives of each school to come over and receive their trophy from Dr. Michele Borba, who happens to sit in the board of character.org. And for the rest of you to hear from one of them to share, to give a few remarks about what it means to be a school of character, or at least to serve as an inspiration for all of you. I also want my school to be like that, a school of character. Let's start with the first school. It's the only university so far that has ever been elevated as a school of character. And they have so many spectacular strategies and practices that the accreditors encourage them, please submit some of your promising practices to the competition in Washington, D.C. And they did, and they were awarded in Washington, D.C. for some of their promising practices. Let me just give you one, and I'm sure you can get this as a very brilliant idea. It's a real caring community, because there in that school, students should not have to go hungry simply because he doesn't have money. And so the faculty, teachers, staff, students, they pull in a fund where if a student on one day happens to have no money for lunch, he can borrow money from there, because no student will have to go hungry simply because he cannot afford a lunch. And if some of you find that a brilliant idea, that is just one of the many promising practices. And so I'd like to call up on stage. And the president is not here yet. The next school, we're waiting for the president. Okay, I would like really that the president is able to make it. I think he is coming from a hearing with the senator, the gathering of some university presidents. Let's go to the second school. The second school that we are giving accreditation to is the first international school recipient of the School of Character, proving to us that having high academic standards does not have to mean that you have to sacrifice character formation. And we especially gave recognition to them in the first round because of their bully prevention practices. They're being able to create a kind and caring community. Ladies and gentlemen, I am always proud to tell people the only international school in the Philippines so far that has been elevated to the School of Character, Ridley International School.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As we gathered here today and listened to Dr. Borba speaking, I was reminded of the words of Martin Luther King. And he once said, intelligence plus character, that is the true goal of education. This is a powerful message that speaks not just of the importance of developing our mental abilities, but also to nurture our moral compass. And as I stand, for every student, teacher and parent of Ridley International as part of our journey of becoming a school of character and to receive this re-accreditation of our CEP accreditation. We are honored and humbled by this accreditation, and it shows the dedication and it's testament to the hard work from our dedicated faculty, staff, students, parents, and it was under the leadership of our curriculum coordinator, Ms. Val Ramos. I want to thank Mr. Rintoy and the CEP accreditors for the efforts that they've made in promoting and working with us and the commitment to character education. It's your guidance that has shaped our future leaders in our society and equipping our students with the life skills that's needed. So to recognize our commitment to character development is a humbling experience, and I would like to take this opportunity to encourage other schools and inspire them to also become and join us in becoming schools of character. One of our best practices that we have implemented by our PGLP department is that of student-led conferences. This approach has empowered our students to take ownership of their learning and growth. It has also given them a voice in shaping the culture of our school, and we have been very successful with these conferences, and it has become a key part of the development of our character initiatives. Another practice that we use then to help us achieve our goal in becoming a school of character is our partnership with the school community. We recognize that character education is not just the responsibility of the school, but it's also of the parents and the community as a whole. And we have linked character education to our life skills program, where we send out monthly emails to our community on the virtue of the month, promoting the positive values such as respect, responsibility, compassion. By working together, we have been able to create a positive and supportive environment that fosters character development. We are excited of entering 2 of our best practices for consideration to character.org's promising practices, and are eagerly awaiting to hear if we will receive recognition and be selected from those programs. I want to thank everybody that was part of our process in the school, becoming a school of character, and we are looking forward to the journey on continuing to work to shape the future leaders of our schools.
Thank you so much. May I request Dr. Michele Borba to come up on stage and do the honors of giving the recognition, the award. May I request the other representatives from Ridley, please join us on stage, and our certificates and the trophy. Ladies and gentlemen, Ridley International School, a school of character. Thank you so much.
Yun nga, sabi ko, pareho tayo na sinabi. Sabi ko, hindi ko school of character. Hindi na sinabi ko, style.
We go to the second awardee. Not yet. No? We don't have the president yet. We go to the next awardee, and this is the first time that they're being accredited as a school of character, and it is with pride being part of the school system to do this announcement. And this is the very first school that we are giving recognition to, where the accreditors, and I would like to acknowledge some of them who are here today, Dr. Golo and Ms. Tyson, Dr. Grillo. The 9 accreditors who visited the school were unanimous in saying, we don't need to wait for the confirmation from Washington, D.C. The school is such a spectacular school of character. And the comment of Dr. Borba is, I am surprised it's only now that they are being elevated as a school of character, because truly it is one of the role models for any institution as far as, for example, homeschool collaboration is concerned. And there are so many promising practices that they have that can really be presented to the rest of the community and to the world as great strategies for forming character. And so, it is with pride that I announce our latest addition to our roster of schools of character in the Philippines, the first PAREF school in the country, PAREF Woodrow's School, a school of character.
Accreditation is really a giant leap in the realization of the vision mission of Woodrow's. And we are very happy to accept this award and grateful to everyone who made this dream possible. So the whole exercise has deepened our conviction, has deepened our commitment to make sure that Woodrow's continues to be a school of character. So in the life of a school, there is nothing more important than ensuring that all its processes, like the plans, the programs, activities, as well as the services, advance the character growth of everyone in school. So this means that all school relationships, both formal and informal, like teaching, like guiding, supervision, managing, coaching, as well as every single transaction, every encounter, every exchange, all this should help build character. So I read an article and the author said, character education is not something added to the plate, it's the plate. So it's the indisputable route to reach academic excellence. So I understand that many of you, or most of you here, are school administrators, and I would really like to encourage all the schools to undertake this character education journey. I can assure you that it is worthwhile. So once again, thank you. Thank you for recognizing and also for celebrating Woodrow's Character Stride, a truly valuable milestone for all of us. Good evening.
May we invite Dr. Michele Borba to come up on stage to give the honors, to do the honors of giving recognition to Woodrow's with their management representatives, Dr. Gina Rama, Ms. Elinor Dioco, Ms. Kathleen Pineda, Ms. Ashley Aquino, Isabel Diaz.
Kakainin bigas.
Please, Socorro Escueta.
Parang ethnic na ano.
Ladies and gentlemen, Haref Woodrow School, a school of character. We're still waiting for the president. So we go to the next awardee. Actually, this is not an award. They're not being re-elevated to the School of Character, but I think it is very appropriate in the light of new additions to the roster of our Schools of Character in the Philippines that we give recognition to the pioneer School of Character in the Philippines. And unfortunately, my best friend, their directress, is not able to make it today, but she rather, is ably represented today by the teachers. I always tell teachers, administrators, if you want to see what a School of Character looks like, make sure you get to visit this first ever School of Character in the Philippines. All the occasions that I had the opportunity to visit the school, I'm always impressed by the kindness, the courtesy, the goodness of the people you see inside. Every human being you meet along the corridor, the janitors, security guards, maintenance men, students, teachers, administrators will greet you with such courtesy, not because it's scripted, but because it is in their system. That is a School of Character. And I thought it should be appropriate, not just to do the elevation, but to give this recognition for their being the pioneer School of Character in the Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, Morning Star Montessori School. The director's teacher, Eddie, is ably represented by Principal Teacher Alda, who's going to give a message.
On behalf of Teacher Hedy Tordesillas Felipe, our school directress and founder of Morning Star Montessori School Incorporated, I am deeply honored and humbled to accept this recognition accorded to our institution as a pioneer school of character in the Philippines. Our sincerest gratitude to the CEP Philippines, headed by no less than Sir Man Rentoy. Truly, this recognition puts a smile on our faces and inspiration in our hearts. More so, are we driven to continue this journey in creating impactful differences in the lives of our students and the community as a whole through character formation. Thank you for this overwhelming support and appreciation of our character building initiatives. In the words of former U.S. President John F. Kennedy, as we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. As much as Teacher Hedy would have loved to personally accept this award, today her duty lies attending to the needs of her youngest child. But rest assured that with her unwavering support and the dedication of our capable and faculty and staff, MSMSI shall continue to uphold its vision, mission of touching the lives of every student, health, hands, head, and heart. To God be the greatest glory.
We request Dr. Michele Borba to do the honors of giving the trophy, and may I request the other teachers of Morning Star Montessori School to please come up on stage for this awarding, for this recognition. Ladies and gentlemen, Morning Star Montessori School is School of Character. Thank you so much. By the way, just to let you know the process, the school would do a self-evaluation according to the 11 principles, and when they think they're ready, they inform my office, and we will send accreditors to the school on a specific day to look at the 11 principles and check their self-evaluation. And if the accreditors find that the school is able to comply with at least 8 of the 11, then we come up with a document and submit it to Dr. Licona in Portland, USA. And now we also submit to Dr. Arthur Schwartz of Character.org for their confirmation and concurrence. And once we receive from them the concurrence, we inform the school that they are a school of character. And for the first time this year, Character.org has invited all our awardees to come to Washington, D.C. for that international recognition to be given to them as schools of character. We've come to the last. Apologies that we could not wait for the president of our awardee, but the fact that this new president has continued on the work of character formation in the university from what the previous president started is a very clear proof that it's sustainable and that they continue to be truly a school of character. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with pride that I announce to you School of Character, Holy Angel University of Angeles. Ms. Lorna Tyson will deliver the message in behalf of the President.
Holy Angel.
Or Ms. Norilyn Pinada.
Ayun, sabi ko na, school of character na sila. Yung alma mater, school of character.
Good afternoon. Mayap agad panahon ko. We are humbled to receive this award on behalf of Holy Angel University in Pampanga. This recertification is an expression of our commitment to make character education a major part of our operations and school culture. We are all a work in progress in the university, and we will strive to exert more efforts, not just for our students, but more so on faculty formation. And we will also continue our founder's legacy of a caring community. And as mentioned by Sir Man, we have this program, the Angel Cares program, consists of the No Student Left Behind, the Share a Meal program, the Share a Week, which is a scholarship program, Soulmate, it's a donation of shoes for our students, and also a Walk with an Angel, a pastoral program for our students. And we are happy that the school management is very supportive of our efforts by putting up and institutionalizing the CEP desk and appointing an administrator for the CEP program. Again, thank you for this recognition and for all our efforts and for all the support of CEP Philippines. We offer this all to God, and as we say at Holy Angel, Laus Deo Semper, praise to God always.
We request Dr. Michele Borba to do the honors of handing over our trophy. May we request the other representatives of Holy Angel University to please come up on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, Holy Angel University, a school of character. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you. Once again, if your school, your institution is interested in learning more about the 11 principles, the course on School of Character is available in Septo Academy, so that you can learn more about the 11 principles, the 11, you can say, things that we look for if a school is truly a school of character. And if you really are serious about undergoing accreditation, please email us at man@septoeducation.com so we can help you. Once again, thank you so much to all of you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Borba, and of course, Dr. Rentoy. And congratulations! Wow, amazing to all the schools. Once again, let's give them a round of applause. I'm sure all of you are now super inspired. Now, if like these organizations, you would also like to create more practices on character formation, build better solution and processes for your school. Our next guest is here to share with you some ways on how they can help through Septo Education. Please give a warm round of applause for the CEO and founder of Septo Education and my handsome husband. Let's welcome Mr. Jacob-Sandejas. I said you're guapo, huh?
Thank you. Wow, what an exciting and inspiring afternoon. I'll try to avoid giving you a sales talk because I think Man gave a very good presentation of how Septo is able to share with you, not only to bring Dr. Borba here to the Philippines. I know it's in partnership with some amazing groups, no? So Dr. Man Rentoy, CEP, Catalyst, UAP School of Science and Engineering, and the UAP Information Technology Community, Bellevue Hotel, Divina Law, and Estacio Uno of Boracay. So Septo is very grateful to be partnered with them to be able to share with you this wonderful seminar today. But don't we all wish that Dr. Borba could speak to all our fellow educators? No? We wish that all of them were able to hear it. And so, like Man shared with you earlier, that he's able to put more of his courses online. We'll try and do our best to put other materials that you and your fellow educators need. So please let us know what other forms of content you think are important that we share on our platforms. So at Septo, we have a bunch of platforms that we can share. As Man shared with you, the Septo Academy. But beyond that, we are not just an education technology company. We were started because of a long story. So let me share for the first time in public something my wife can confirm. No? We met on the swimming team of Manila Polo Club. It's the first time I'm sharing this. We shared the swimming pool together, right? Since we were 5 years old. But at that time, I was a really naughty boy. You might say I had character. Because of that, I think my parents moved me to one of those schools of character that Dr. Borba had a picture of. So there, I guess they reformed me a little bit. And so I think I'd like to share with you that it was in that school that I was directed and helped by my mentors. And upon graduation, my philosophy teacher wrote on the back of our class picture this quote. I still remember it today. He said that a candle should not be hidden, but it should be brought out to share the light. And it inspired me up to today. And that's why today I don't just start companies to make money. It's not the reason. The reason that I learned from my father and my family, my mother as well, as some of you know my mom, we're very passionate about education in our family. And so, like UNP, I was one of the first batches of teachers here. I taught physics and physical education here, the first year of UNP. And so they asked me, can you come back and teach here? Can you be the Dean of Engineering? UP, I'm from UP. They said, can you teach in UP? I was on the board of LaSalle Canlubang. Can you teach in Canlubang? And then now I chair Philippine Development Foundation, and we teach 60 colleges the art of starting entrepreneurship and starting a startup. And it's hard. How do we go to 60 campuses? Impossible. So actually we bring you to one place, but even that is kind of impossible. And because my PhD is in engineering, I said, let's start a company that will give you solutions that help you, not sell you things that you don't need. Because there are many IT companies that sell you stuff that you really don't need. So because I'm a fellow educator like you, I kind of know what's needed, but I don't know it all, right? So I need to talk to you. And I know Gina here, I make her pull it, right? I text her, like, what else do you need, right? Let me know. And your other schools, right? So if you're in a school system, for example, you couldn't get them all here, right? But you want more of your teachers to know about this. Even your parents, all the questions that Christine got for Dr. Borba, right? How do we help the parents? So we also include the parents in the learning management system, which other learning management systems don't. You have Canvas, you have Blackboard, you have Google Classroom. They don't have a role for parents. We can create the role for parents for your schools so that they're involved. So Dr. Borba's Virtue of the Month, what should the parents reinforce in the home? We can allow you to do that. So these are the things that Zepto does. But before we start selling you things, we wanted to sit with you, learn what is it you're going through in the digital transformation. Because digital transformation is scary, especially if, like some of me, I'm kind of old also, right? So now there's ChatGPT and new technologies that even my children are playing with more than me because I'm so busy, I can't play with it all the time. So I actually ask my computer science children, hey, can you show me how you're programming now? Because in my day, programming was harder. We didn't have so many tools. Now they have so many tools to program faster. And with ChatGPT, they say a programmer is 10 times more efficient than a programmer during my time. So I'm learning from my own children. So anyway, come to us, talk to us, and we'll help you go through this digital transformation, help you choose the products that you need. We do have a few products here. These are the things that we commonly find you need, like the learning management system, where I say we can have roles for your parents. And we also allow you, more importantly, as administrators and leaders, you can get the data. You can look into your system and see, are my students learning? Are my teachers, by the way, it's like if you're the principal, are the teachers really using it or sinasayang lang, no? So we actually caught some teachers wasting time on Facebook and other things, right? So that's not the purpose here, right? But anyway, we're there to advise you. And there are other tools like the data science, the data analytics. We have digital classroom solutions. And in fact, so that's why I was asking Man earlier if we have the books of Dr. Borba. We make available books for the schools as well. Digital form, not yet physical. We're really mostly a digital company. So one of the things that inspired me also was this network of yours. All of you have best practices. You're 4 awardees, and there's others that will soon be awardees. There's best practices amongst yourselves. I'd really love to see, if you want, to create the Zepto Education Network so you can share amongst yourselves. It doesn't need to be ours, it's really yours. Let us know if you need that and we'll build it for you. So we have that Facebook group, Zepto Education. You can use it as you wish. But again, let us know what you need. Please come to us after. So anyway, beyond that, so we've helped schools like Paref, Woodrose, Muntinlupa Science, and all the schools in Bataan to upskill their teachers. We also provide the training and the support. So the other thing with the vendors is sometimes they'll sell you something and then they leave you. If you want, you can ask the Woodrose ladies how makulit we are. So in supporting them, hopefully it's not too much, but we really pride ourselves in being there for you as your partners throughout your digital transformation. So I'll end here, right? Anyway, if your school needs any help in this digital introduction, do let us know. Our goal is really to help you and your schools thrive. We're really here for you, educators, in this challenging time, in this challenging environment. So, last name card, zeptoeducation.com, and where you can find the Zepto Academy is just put academy.zeptoeducation.com. I'll end here. Thank you very much for your patience listening to me after such an amazing talk. So, have a good afternoon.
Okay, thank you. So you should just come back next time. We're gonna have our own talk about marriage and parenting, and I could tell you more about Mr. Jacob-Sandejas later on. But anyway, thank you so much for being with us. And as he mentioned earlier, you can actually do a lot with tech-enabled solutions for your school. All you have to do is visit zeptoeducation.com or visit the booth outside if you'd like to know more. Well, of course, as we have promised you earlier, we have prepared some prizes for the lucky winners for today. The winner will each get, courtesy of Zepto Education. Okay, let's go. First one, we are going to be giving Oppo Band Smart Watch. Hey, para sulit yung iyong time here. Okay, from first winner for today, Wellspring of Grace School. Where are you? Wellspring. Okay, and our lucky winner is Marinel Lumpas. Congratulations, Miss Marinel. You can claim your prize sa labas, sa may Zepto Education, Zepto booth outside. Okay, next from Morning Star. Lucky day for you. Congratulations, you've also won for yourself an Oppo Band smartwatch. John Lloyd Vecina. It's your day. And our next lucky winner, Oppo Enco Buds 2, is that right? From Miriam College High School. Our winner is Jed Martin Tingson. Congratulations. Okay, now, I'm sure this afternoon gave everybody a better perspective, new insights, of course, new inspiration on what practices we can apply to your respective schools. I'm sure you're excited and ready to go and try it out. And you can always contact Dr. Borba if you have any questions, or just to keep her updated on, wow, this worked for our school. So next time she gives a talk, you can be, the example that she will have for other schools. With that, we hope that you do stay tuned for further instructions on how to get your certificates as well from this event through Zepto Academy, and details will be sent straight to your inbox. Again, I am your host for today, Christine Jacob-Sandejas. I do hope you had a wonderful time, and I hope to see you again next time. Safe trip, everybody. Thank you.